The Conference for Peace and Prosperity in the Great Lakes region of Eastern Africa brought together different stakeholders in Paris on Thursday. Its main focus was on the humanitarian crisis in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, where thousands have been killed and millions displaced by decades of conflict. The situation further deteriorated earlier this year when the M23 rebel group staged a lightning offensive, seizing two major cities, including Goma. The West African nation of Togo, which is serving as the African Union's mediator for the region, said the crisis deserved greater international attention than it was getting.
For several decades, and more particularly since the restart of hostilities at the beginning of the year, the Great Lakes region has been experiencing a tragedy. Millions of people have been displaced, families uprooted, women and children have been the victims of atrocities, and entire communities have been taken hostage by war. This is not only a Congolese crisis, it's a regional crisis, and we might say it's a collective failure on the part of the international community.
During the conference, leaders sought to galvanize support for mediation efforts by the US and Qatar to end the conflict between DRC's government and M23 rebels that has been facing setbacks. French President Emmanuel Macron said the humanitarian cost of the conflict compelled the international community to ensure ongoing peace efforts succeed.
1 million new displaced people since the beginning of the year, in addition to the 6 million already uprooted, hundreds of thousands of refugees in the Democratic Republic of Congo and neighboring countries yearn to return home. Nearly 28 million people are facing food insecurity. A woman is raped every 4 minutes and a child every 30 minutes. These figures are not statistics.
Macron said the airport in Goma will reopen to humanitarian flights in coming weeks, along with secure corridors for aid delivery. But the M23, which closed off access to the airport after it seized Goma in January, has described Macron's announcement as untimely. The French leader also announced a pledge of more than $1.7 billion in international aid, including medicine and food, for the Great Lakes region. David Mithi, CGTN.
Chris Ochamringa is in Kinshasa and joins us with more. Chris, French President Emmanuel Macron has said the airport in Goma will reopen to humanitarian flights. What more can you tell us? And has the M23 responded to that?
So, Penina, the announcement by President Emmanuel Macron comes after months of repeated calls by humanitarian organizations for the reopening of Goma International Airport, because that's the main access route for them to supply food, medicine, and other relief items to the people who have been displaced by this conflict. We're told there are more than 4 million people who have been displaced since this conflict began in late 2021. And we have heard from the International Committee of the Red Cross that many hospitals in that area have been running out of critical medicines because they do not have supplies. And so this call has been made to try and improve the lives of these people who are suffering. But we have heard a statement, from the M23 rebel group saying that this was a very untimely message coming from France. They're saying that it is not for France to take this decision. It's supposed to be carried out within the framework of the Doha peace talks that are being mediated by the state of Qatar, supported by the United States and the African Union. We also heard similar sentiments by the Foreign Affairs Minister of Rwanda, rejecting this idea by France. And we've also heard from the DRC Minister of Communication, Patrick Muyaya, saying that this is a decision, the reopening of the Goma International Airport is a decision that the DRC government is in support of for improving the lives of the people displaced in Eastern DRC. This is not something that the M23 or the Rwandan government should decide. So they are saying that France is in order to make this decision. Now, this issue of the reopening of the Goma Airport is a very contentious one, because earlier this year there was an agreement between the Southern African Development Community and the M23 to reopen the airport to facilitate the withdrawal of their troops from South Africa, Tanzania and Malawi that were helping DRC to end that war there. But then the DRC government refused and said that will only happen after the Rwandan Defense Forces and the M23 rebels withdraw from that area. So it's a very contentious issue. Many people are really looking very closely to see whether it will happen this time round after President Emmanuel Macron made this call. Penny?
Right. So, Chris, what is the situation currently in the eastern part of the country?
The situation has really deteriorated in North and South Kivu province. We've heard of repeated attacks on positions of the DRC government and the M23 rebels. The rebels have been saying the government forces have been bombarding their areas with drones and jet fighters, and they have threatened to strike back and even overthrow the government in Kinshasa. The army spokesperson of the DRC said that it is the rebels who have been provoking them. They're trying to advance to other areas, so what they're doing is preventing that from happening. They're saying while there are talks happening in Doha, that does not stop the DRC government from defending its territorial integrity. So there's a lot of tension, and all this is because of the major issues that have put the two sides apart is the talks in Doha. There are two major issues. One is about the release of prisoners that the DRC is holding, prisoners who are from the M23 group, people who have been suspected to be collaborating with them, and those who were caught in battle. That has not happened. It's supposed to be facilitated by the international community from the Red Cross, but because of the mutual mistrust between them, it hasn't happened. The other sticky issue is the issue of the restoration of state authority. The M23 rebels seem to have been suggesting that they want to remain occupying all the areas that they're currently occupying, even after a peace agreement has been reached. And the DRC government is totally against that. And so that has created a lot of friction between them and, you know, incited the two belligerent camps on the ground to continue fighting. And the people, the ordinary people in that area are the ones who are bearing the brunt of this conflict. We've heard that there are about 9,000 people who have been recently displaced by this conflict, and they're in dire need of food, water, and shelter.